Hi guys, it's Amber from Amber Reads Books, and I'm here today to bring you my weekly reads video. This is the video where I discuss what I read last week, what I'm currently reading, and what I hope to read for the coming week. This past week was sort of a busy one for our family. We had multiple field trips and things for school because it's coming to an end, so of course all of the activities are lumped together in these last couple of weeks of school. My youngest had field day. My son actually had his 13th birthday. We celebrated a couple of weeks ago because we knew how busy we're gonna be and our work schedules just didn't match up to celebrate on his actual birthday. But I still made him a special dinner and a dessert for his actual birthday. So I'm now the mother of 2 teenagers since he turned 13. Please, thoughts and prayers are needed because I don't know how I'm gonna make it through the next couple of years. But it was a lot of fun, and it's always fun to see how much they've grown, to look back at those pictures, you know, from years ago on their birthday that pop up on like Facebook and stuff, and then I'm like, wow, they've just grown so much. He's gotten so big, and he's actually turning into such a kind, sweet, funny young man. So I loved being able to celebrate that milestone with him. He actually got an iPhone, which he was super excited for. But anyway, yeah, I just had a lot of stuff going on, but I did manage to finish 2 books, and I got a good portion of a way into a 3rd book. So let's discuss. The first book I'd like to talk about is These Shallow Graves by Jennifer Donnelly. This is a young adult murder mystery set in 1890. It follows Jo, our main character, who has just found out her father has committed suicide. Though when she goes back home and starts to look into the events of that day, she comes to find out that maybe that wasn't the case. Maybe he was actually murdered. So this is her journey trying to figure out what happens. I really loved the main character, Jo, in this story. She was so strong and resilient. She also did not listen to what society told her she had to be. She really starts to fight back. I mean, there is one point in this book where she starts to question whether or not she should fight back, but overall she stays a really strong character. I really also loved the murder mystery aspect of this book. There was a few twists and turns that really caught me off guard, which isn't usually the case. I'm usually able to call things way ahead of time. So whenever anything catches me off guard, I really enjoy that. Also, I really loved the writing in this book. This is set in 1890, so a lot of people may be hesitant to pick it up because it is a period piece or a historical piece. But I found that while it was set in 1890, you didn't always feel like you were there. It wasn't heavy on the setting and the historical aspect of it. It was more heavy on the relationships and the murder mystery. So I think she did a really good job of setting you in 1890, but not bashing you over the head with historical details about the time period. I also really enjoyed the cast of characters. I thought there was a few in here that could actually maybe have their own little spin-off books because they were just very interesting to read about. Things that I didn't like would maybe be the cast of characters. While I enjoyed them, could have been a little bit more diverse. I didn't feel like they were as diverse as they could be. I also feel like some of the side characters were not as complex as maybe they could have been. They were, some of them, one note. Not all of them, but some of them. I also felt in this book that the pacing was just a little off in a couple places. It could have just gotten to the point a little quicker. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I give it 3.5 stars. I borrowed this from the library. Even though the cover is absolutely stunning, I wouldn't go out and pay full price for this. And because I'm probably not ever going to reread it, I don't think I will actually pick up my own copy unless I see it maybe for really cheap at like a secondhand sale or something like that. But the first line in this book is, Josephine Montfort stared at the newly mounted grave in front of her and at the wooden cross marking it. The next book I'd like to talk about is Shelter by Jung Yoon. This is a contemporary novel. This is about our main character, Kai Young, who is just down on his luck. Him, his wife, and his son live together in a very small house. The house is falling apart. They're in a lot of debt. His parents, who seem to be very rich, live in a neighborhood that's adjacent to his, but in a very upscale neighborhood. He doesn't have a lot of contact with them outside of the normal obligations that a son should have. He is not very close with them emotionally or anything. And he doesn't really want to have that relationship with them. But one day a turn of events happens that actually brings his parents into his home. They have to live with him for a period of time. So he has to kind of start to confront all of these things that he has been feeling through the course of his life. And it's not easy to read. I will say that. While I thought this book was fantastic as far as the writing and the overall arc of the story and everything, I just felt while reading it that it was very hard to read. It was sad and depressing and sometimes frustrating, and it was not enjoyable in that sense. But once I finished it and closed the book and really thought about it and thought about the story, it really is one that's probably going to stick with me for a very long time. I ended up rating this 4 stars. I did feel there was a couple places where the pace was just a little bit off and it could have, hurried up a little bit. But that could just be me too. It might have just been in the mood to move on to the next book. But overall, I really thought the story was so thought-provoking, and I want to probably own my own copy because I do think in the future I would do a reread of this and really dive into those finer details that I may have missed the first time around. So yeah, I ended up rating it 4 stars, and the first line in this book is, "The boy is standing in the doorway again." Now on to what I'm currently reading, and that is Horns by Joe Hill. This is a story about a man who has had a drunken night, and he wakes up the next morning and horns are growing out of his head, along with other complications. He also has had a loss in his life, and he's trying to deal with that. And so far, this book, as crazy as that premise sounds, is actually really good. I haven't gotten too far. I'm 112 pages in, but I feel like this may be a book that I end up really, really loving. So I will reserve my judgments until next week when I finished it and let you guys know what I thought. But as of right now, I'm really enjoying it. So now on to what I hope to read for the rest of the week. I have still 5 library books out, and I really just want to read them and get them all back to the library, so once school is over, I can just start fresh with my summer reading. So the books that I have left are A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. So these two I'm sort of looking forward to, but at the same time, I didn't really enjoy my first read of A Court of Thorns and Roses, so we will see how that goes. Then I also picked up this week The Apothecary by Mail Malloy. This is a middle grade novel that I saw recommended on Elise's channel from Paper Bits, and she just really loves this series, so I wanted to give it a try and to see if I can convince my son to read it. So we will see how that goes. And then I just have 2 fantasy books. One I've shown before, which is Blood Song by Anthony Ryan. And then, I can't wait to get to this book, but at the same time I can because it's large, is A Fool's Errand by Robin Hobb. This is book 1 in the Tawny Man trilogy. So this is actually the 3rd trilogy in the Realm of the Elderlings series. This goes back to the story of Fitz. So as you guys may or may not remember, I read the first 2 trilogies out of order. I started with the Live Ship Traders trilogy, and then I read the Farseer trilogy. So I've just came out of Fitz's world in the last trilogy, and I'm hopping right back into his world in this trilogy. So I'm really, really excited to pick it up, but I know how long it's going to take me because Robin Hobb's writing, again, is so detailed and so rich that it takes a while, and this is just about 500 pages. So I know this will be a few intense days of reading, but I'm so looking forward to it. So that wraps up what I read, what I'm currently reading, and what I hope to read. What did you guys read this week? Let me know down in those comments below. I'd love to hear if you read anything that you absolutely enjoyed or anything that you did not like. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great week and happy reading.